2, 3, 4. Do, 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 do. Pow, pow, pow. All right, greetings from the wasteland out here in Survival Pod. This is Freedom Phil. Like, subscribe, and what's the topic today? You know, you think with all the fraud they've revealed in all these other states, you know, Somali fraud, healthcare fraud, helping the homeless fraud, all these millions, nay, billions of dollars, all the people living on Section 8 that are illegals. You think if we got rid of this problem in America, we could actually, wild thought here, we could solve the homelessness problem. Just a redirection of funds and energy and abilities. Yeah, where am I going with this? It's Freedom Phil. Like, subscribe. Let's get into it. And hey, turn up the video speed. And why do I always say that? Because let's be real about it. If you're watching my videos at regular speed, what are you doing? The channel's name is literally what I'm telling you to do. You should be watching this at 1.7. Turn up the video speed. Let's get into it. Like, subscribe. So I'm sitting there watching this Nick Shirley video, and it's not like I haven't seen the homelessness issue. Back when I was trucking, used to be driving through the West Coast, and you'd see places that looked like herpes pock marks, like some type of pox, and it's tents everywhere. And maybe they could do a, you know, give the close to the color of grass, give them tarps that kind of match the area. If it's dirt covered colored tarps, you know, that way it looks less nasty, you know, just saying. And I'm not trying to be like down on people that are living in tents. No. I'm not trying to take a shit on you. I'm just saying it does look bad, because I remember when the Emerald City was a lot nicer. I remember when, Portland, the Rose City was a beautiful place. And it's still, you know, these are still kind of nice places. But you got people, fentanyl benders and stuff around. Like the crackheads are replaced by the fentanyl benders, you know, and all these things. And what it is, it's the tale of two cities. I remember when I was bumming change at one point, and I was going towards Seattle. So this big, you know, meathead shows up. And he's like, Seattle's over that way, man. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to be in Seattle. Screw that. Well, we don't want you bumming here. And I'm like, well, I'm not breaking any laws. So, hey, I'm going to do my thing. And then I'm going to travel on. You need to go. I'm like, I'll go when I damn well feel like it. He's like, he got all puffed up. I'm like, dude, seriously, there's cameras on you right now. You're trying to step up? Fuck, I'll let you in, then I'll sue your ass. And you know, that was the threat that got, you know, Mr. Beefcake to back the fuck up. Oh shit, I could lose my money. What's this got to do with the homelessness situation? There's a lot of people that live in really nice neighborhoods that are never going to visit, they're never going to see the forgotten in society. And admittedly, there's a lot of people that do it to themselves. People get hooked on drugs. People get on the system. And once you're on the system and you're getting steady money per month, there's really absolutely no reason you shouldn't be partying. Especially if you got no rent, no bills, no anything. You got like $1,000 a month and you don't have to pay rent, utilities, or anything. And you figured out a way to get by. Yeah, you got a lot of money for the best, good food and drugs, especially when you got the EBT plus the food banks. It is not a surprise what you see on the streets. But imagine for a second if we stop subsidizing fucking losers in America. Like, okay, I got nothing against plumbers and electricians. In fact, I regularly promote people becoming tradesmen. It's like I was talking to a relative of mine. He was telling me about his kid. And his kid's wife, she went online and looked at buying all this stuff overseas and just had it all shipped in a shipping container. And they saved $180,000 on the house that they're building. Because she did this. And because there was one part where they had to do a special type of metal framework for the house. And the people that showed up that gave the kid the bid said $69,000. Well, he's been a carpenter. He's good enough to build cabinets. He's that good. You know, cabinet maker level. So he can frame, he can plumb, you know, especially if he's got his old man there, they can do it all. The guy that helped me work on my house is the father. So they can do it all. And do you realize how much money they save by doing the work themselves? You realize that. You realize how much that's worth. Now imagine for a second, instead of giving all this money away to illegals, like Section 8 for illegals that showed up just yesterday, and they're like, oops, I had a baby, so I guess now we're Americans. And then the scammers like the Somalian scammers. Whether it's the healthcare scam, the daycare scam, the whatever scam, I don't give a fuck. All the scams in all the different cities, be it red or blue. Mostly blue, though. It really seems to be happening a lot in these blue districts. Almost like they're taking the money and funneling it through few different corporations, and most of it gets taken back to the home country. That's why I said the other day, these scammers are fleeing like rats. And if this was you robbing somebody in this country, they would have had guns trained on you. You scam America out of millions legally using the system, committing fraud against the system, and they just let you go. Now just imagine for a second, if we got rid of all that fraud, how many plumbers could we train? Like I said, it's nothing against the plumbers, but how many plumbers, how many kids, if you kicked a lot of motherfuckers off welfare tomorrow, how many nurses would we have? How many of these dudes that are just kind of living with their girlfriend or wife? Yeah, babe, I'm looking for a job. I'm looking for a job. Just like whether it's white, black, what the fuck ever. How many of these dudes are like, hey, we got a plumbing school right now? I don't want to do that. Well, we're not going to feed you anymore. You're not going to live in this apartment. How many people could we have trained to build houses? And if we had a surplus of plumbers, electricians, and, truckers and HVAC guys, framers, carpenters, just like my relative, his kid, how many tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars is that man saving by doing it himself? What's this got to do with the homeless? I have seen cases where I think they're called hickory sheds. They got like a little porch on the front, a door with a glass window and all that stuff. They're good enough. If you were to finish out one of those structures, you could have like the sleeping area and the loft up above. Have like a ship ladder type of deal. And not to mention that'd be way, way easier to heat. You wouldn't have to keep it super hot if you're sleeping up above. And then basically you've got enough space down below. You got a couch, a little small kitchen, and maybe you'd use a composting toilet or an incinerator toilet. How many, and then by the way, if we made an industrial base to build these incinerator toilets, how cheap could we make those toilets? How many homeless people? I bet we could do this for under $25,000 per unit. And we could put Americans back to work, helping to save Americans. Now, I understand there's a lot of homeless people on the streets. They can't be recovered. They're too far gone. They've done too many drugs. They're too crazy. But there's a lot of them out there that they're out there because you can't afford $3,000 a month for rent. Not on what they're paying in those cities. They can't afford $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month. The dream of owning a house is a far off dream, but at least it's not freezing that night. Because it's, SoCal. I look at some of these motherfuckers living up in Seattle. I lived in the woods out in Western Washington for 4 years in my early 20s. I had a yurt with a wood stove and a Siberian Husky. My insulation was greenhouse plastic, literally. I look at the knowledge I have now of Nordic houses and underground or mound housing, and I'm like, fuck, man, this could have been so much better. $25,000 toilets. What the fuck are you talking about? Clearly you ain't listening. Jackass. You could literally build a whole ass house, mini house, for under $25,000. But I look back at some of these places, like you see some of these people living up there in, like Minnesota in the winter. I'm like, man, you got to do that for the love of the game. I don't fucking understand that. If you're living in Minnesota during the winter, you got to really love what you're doing. There's about 750 to 800,000 homeless people. And if you think about it from this perspective, for every 100,000, that'd be 4 units made. So for every million, that's 40 units. Now, $1 billion. $1 billion is 1,000, a million 1,000 times. So 40 times 1,000. Simple numbers, man. And we would have to find some land, so you got to factor that in too. But ain't there more than enough government land around? There's more than enough government property that they ain't doing shit with, that we could build whole ass towns. And I'm not saying people should just be giving away a whole ass house to people. But I am saying, if $1 billion equals 40,000 people off the streets, how many billions you got to spend to get up to 750,000? How many billions? I'm going to bet it's a whole lot less than's been pissed away on fraud. I'm going to bet it's a whole lot less than you've been trying to help the homeless. Like, I understand the food banks, because a lot of that's it's donation systems and charities and whatnot. I totally get that. But when they've been trying to help the homeless by giving them crack pipes and fresh needles, don't get me wrong, I understand the reasoning for the fresh needles and maybe even the crack pipes, because then they're not sharing needles and, spreading like fucking bloodborne diseases, like AIDS and shit. But imagine, instead of actually having a situation where you make people that are on the streets more comfortable on the streets, we actually got them out of homelessness. Imagine if we just trained how many people on Section 8 and welfare to do the essential jobs. And you ask yourself, why aren't we doing this? And it's a tale of two cities. Those above don't want to see affordable housing for those below. Those above know that if they sell their property, I got property. I know if the solution ever happened, my house would decrease in value. But then you have to ask another question. If housing was more affordable for the average person, and we weren't subsidizing fraud, we weren't subsidizing people living on the streets, we weren't giving people crazy checks, welfare checks, food stamps, TAMF, all that shit. Like, okay, I don't care if people get cheap food. That's never going to bother me. Maybe it's because I'm fat. But I got to be real about it. If we weren't giving away all this shit, how much lower would your taxes be? Not just the fraud, just the everyday scamming of the system scamming you. How much more money would you have back in your paycheck? So that's where a lot of people that are like, they just put their hands in the air. What are you going to do about it? Well, it's just the way it is. Because it's not on their doorstep. Just like that fucking meathead that was in my face when I was bumming change out there in Western Washington. The problems are somewhere else. But believe you me, the taxes are taken from all of you. Now, arguably, do you ever really pay the taxes? Most of you got kids in school, like in this Western Washington, I believe it's 15 grand per year. I've heard it's more like 17 per child per year, times 13 years. Now, most of you never pay taxes. Hell, if you're going like full Mormon or full Hasidic Jew, like, man, some big families. You talk about bleeding the beast there. But the way you actually do pay taxes in this country, and everybody pays it, even the rich, the middle class, everybody, is through inflation. And because people didn't want to pay their bills back in the day, they printed money to pay the bills. The federal government and the Fed get together, and they go out and print the money. And then they distribute it all over the country. And then we all have to pay more for everything we're doing. The $1.50 pack of Top Ramen at the Dollar Tree used to be $1. Just 4 or 5 years ago, it was less than 4 years ago, I could go to the Dollar Tree and it was $1 for Top Ramen, a 5-pack. Now it's $1.50. You will all pay the taxes. You're going to pay more having all these homeless people on the streets than it would cost to cure the fucking problem. So like I said, you really got to look suspiciously at who benefits from keeping things the way they are. And the answer for that is politicians, the upper crust, and most of the middle class. Old boomers, older Gen Xers, people that have large amounts of land, real estate, they are the benefactors of these high prices. But in the long run, if the government wasn't taking that money from you, you could have invested that money and made even more. Just my thoughts. Freedom Phil, like, subscribe, take it easy. Yo, and remember, when I upload this, turn up the video speed. Turn up the speed so you watch the video faster. Take it easy.